Okay, recording should be started. Hello, everyone. Today is April 24th. It's a Wednesday, and this is one of our weekly Community Edition setup sessions. Today we're going to be covering some important topics as we move our instance that we've been building up on Google Cloud from a kind of a development instance up to a more production ready instance. So today we're mainly going to be covering storage in general, or a few different topics related to how you store your data on your instance. Will hit one quick thing before going into that, but yeah, so in this session, we'll cover persistent volumes, a clarification on some of the persistent volumes work we've done in previous weeks, and then we will also cover how to set up our external databases for the first time. So very excited to dive in. Um, cool. So the main thing I wanted to touch base on first was if I could GitHub. In a previous session, we had tested out using our own custom version of Dialog, and Yvonne was helping us out with that in the Discord, kind of understanding why this Docker file that comes with that wasn't working out of the box. And we had identified that this netcat uh, command was having some trouble in there, and it was related to once once the workflow finished this. Let's see if I see it in here. This health check that we had in there. I actually think this is the wrong the wrong repo. Um, but basically, I did want to just touch base that after removing the health check, it did successfully go through, and we were able to deploy our own custom version. We'll have more on just um, custom versions of all of the code bases later, but I wanted to just touch base on Dialog and close the loop there.
That's awesome.
Cool, cool. Awesome. So let's dive into storage. So on our instance that we've been working with, we've basically set up persistent volumes on our instance, and we haven't moved to an external database for storing the data that comes with our Reticulum pod, and which currently comes with our Postgres pod. Now, what I do want, and you'll see right now I have my Postgres and Reticulum pod set to 0 right now while we're doing some edits. But I did want to give a clarification just on persistent volumes and persistent volume claims here, and something that I got a more authoritative answer from the Hubs team about just what the issue was there and why we might have been having some issues. So if you remember last time to deploy persistent volumes, we had customized our YAML file by in the volumes section of Reticulum and Postgres by pointing that to a persistent volume claim rather than to this kind of uh, host path. And then we had also deployed, using these YAML files, we had deployed some persistent volumes and persistent volume claims. So I did want to just go ahead and kind of touch base on why this was kind of working, but why we actually want to do it a different way. So I asked Gung about this, and really it comes down to this storage class name and access modes. So by default, um, Google Cloud does not support this read write many access mode um, if you are just uh, writing your data to your virtual machine, to your node. And that's what we're essentially trying to do is we have, on this instance, we have 3 nodes in our node cluster, and we want to move our data out of our Reticulum and Postgres pods and onto the cluster level itself, and to abstract away from that. And these nodes in this cluster, it has a certain amount of data storage on its disk that we're trying to write to with our persistent volumes. So by default, this read write many access mode is not supported when you're writing just straight to the disks, not disks, sorry, to disk on Google Cloud. Um, so read write many should actually be changed to read write once. And let me actually maybe look up the documentation here. Read write once, PVs, GKE. So we can see here, this is the actual documentation. The volume for read-write many, the volume can be mounted as read-write many by many nodes. Persistent volume resources that are backed by compute engine persistent disks don't support this access mode. Um, Basically, what this means is we can't have more than one community edition instance writing to disk at once, which in our case is actually fine. If we just want to use persistent volumes, we only have one community edition instance, one pod for Postgres, one pod for Reticulum writing to disk. That's fine. However, if you wanted to scale up, use more of your cluster for more community edition instances, you wouldn't be able to use this access mode for persistent volumes, and you wouldn't be able to do it. You could find other ways to do it, but um, if you wanted more than one community edition instance on your cluster, on your node cluster, you probably don't want to use persistent volumes writing to disk. I won't say in all cases, but we'll go over today how you can go ahead and just set up an external database, which is a more production ready use case anyway. So we'll be going over both, just how, if we want to use persistent volumes with one instance of community edition running on our cluster at once, how we can do that. But then we'll also set up external databases, which are optimized for the kind of data storage we want to do in a more production environment there. Cool. Any questions before we dive into the persistent volume section?
I am curious about one thing. So when I set up persistent volume claims and persistent volume all in the HCC YAML file,
Hmm.
because I was like unfamiliar and I was just like I didn't even know if you could have extra YAML. I don't know. I was just like, well, just put it in this one. But one thing I did, and it's been that part has been working for me. I have. But I'm curious to know if you had run into any areas or any errors with Reticulum, because I we or I changed it from read write once to read write many for the persistent volume in order to deal with an error in uh, Reticulum.
Okay. Um, I wouldn't be able to say without knowing more about the error.
Right. I think it had something to do with like Reticulum wanting to take up more space automatically, like by default.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I need to. I guess that's not even a question. I guess I'm just sort of maybe thinking out loud. So apologize.
Sure.
I apologize for that.
No
I guess my
worries.
question is it okay to have all of the information, the persistent volume claims and persistent volume within HCC YAML, or is it better to break them out into other YAML files? Let's start with that.
Oh, I think it's perfectly fine if you're willing to manage it. I'm going off Rithik's recommendation here of having a YAML file for our persistent volume and persistent volume claim for Postgres, and then a
Okay.
YAML file for Reticulum as well. So I've,
Okay.
based on his recommendation, we're separating that out and then just
Okay.
pointing this all there. But the great part about Kubernetes and YAML is just like being able to lump it all into one file if you want to.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering if I was doing something
And
that like wasn't best practices. So thank you.
well, I'm not experienced enough at this point to say what is best practices. I'm not an IT uh, SRE person at this point in my career, but it will work in any case on either. Um, I would want to make sure that, when we're applying our HCCE YAML deployment, we're applying that very frequently. I would just want to make sure each time you are writing this, you're not creating another persistent volume, which I don't think you are if it has the same name. Um, but I would just be careful about that.
That's interesting. Or accidentally overwriting it. Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
interesting. Yeah, so far it hasn't been an issue. But yeah, that's good to know. Thank you for that.
Hmm. Cool. Cool. So, um, and in fact, I'm wondering if we should do something a little bit interesting. Um, as we demo this, we're basically just going to be removing some of the specification that Rithik you've put in here, and just be using a lot of the defaults that are made available by uh, by Google. So, in fact, I'm going to edit these
Cool.
two files that we've used previously and remove all mentions, I believe, of the persistent volume, and just show how I think just by specifying a persistent volume claim, Google should automatically spin up a default persistent volume. Um, so for this PVC, I'm actually going to remove storage class and change our access mode to read write once here. So I've updated this persist.ret YAML file to just include the mention of the persistent volume claim, and I'm pretty sure if I apply it,
Mhm.
oh, sorry, I need to change my directory here.
That would be wonderful. Like, if we are able to spin without creating a persistent volume claim. Sorry, without defining a persistent volume, we just have to create the persistent volume claim. That's a good one.
So let's see. So I've created this, and I'm pretty sure that Google Cloud will try to create one. So I have here. I can now see in Lens a new persistent volume claim with an age of 14 seconds. For storage class here, I can see standard RWO. Now, RWO stands for read write once, that access mode. And if I look at my storage classes here, it's one of kind of the standard ones that come with Google. It's going to take a little bit of time, so I think I can't see any logs, but I'm pretty sure just by default, Google Cloud will be like, oh, there's a new persistent volume claim that's been created. Hey, is there a persistent volume associated with it? And if there's not, it's going to try and go ahead and spin one up with that storage class for it. So it should take a few minutes here, but it should come up. Now I'm going to do the same for the Postgres one. I'm going to delete the whole mention of the persistent volume. I'm going to delete, I think I've already deleted on this the persistent, or what was it called? The storage class name, and then changed access mode to read write once. So I'm going to save that and then apply that as well. Persist pgsql.yaml. I've applied it. I can see that my PVC is coming up for that as well. Still nothing on persistent volumes, but it might take a moment for that to come up. All right, and now going back to our YAML file, I'm going to search for volumes. There are only two mentions of volumes, and oh dear, I've shown all of my confidential secrets there. um, but yeah, right now there are only two volumes specified, one in Postgres and then one in Reticulum. And we can see here that I've already kind of got these specified to point to my PGSQL PVC and then also to my RET PVC here. It's also important to mention, don't get rid of the config here. There are two volumes that you need for Reticulum. One is for the config map, so make sure you don't get rid of this, and we can just get rid of the mention of this host path and everything. So I'm also going to apply kubectl apply minus f HCCE YAML minus n, and then HCCE, oh sorry, HCCE Mike Moran is my namespace. So I'm going to apply this again. It's going to take a little bit. Okay, so I've applied that. I still have my replicas for Reticulum and Postgres at 0. So we'll take a moment to spin that up in a second. But I've just also looked back at my persistent volume claims, and my persistent volumes now have a name and a unique identifier. So those did automatically spin up with just kind of the default specifications from Google Cloud. So not to say that this is the way that you know, you might want to specify some of that unique stuff that Riffic, I know you had taken time uh, to spell out in that YAML file, but I wanted to at least show you how to do this so that you can um, apply the minimal amount of YAML and use some of the defaults that Google Cloud makes available.
Cool.
Cool. So I'm just going to verify in my config map here in Reticulum. If I look down at volumes, I can see that I have storage and config for my volumes, and config is pointing to ret PVC. Let's also check my Postgres pod. Look at volumes. Great. I can see PostgreSQL data is pointing to PGSQL. Awesome. It's also important. Kubernetes should call you on this if you don't specify correctly, but your volumes and your volume mounts names are always going to need to be the same. So just always, if you're getting an error, I did it in some testing earlier, but this is also, it typically does call you on it if you try to apply it with a volume name that's different from the volume mount, but just to be aware there. Um, cool. So let's now scale up our Reticulum and Postgres pods. I discovered how to do this with the Lens UI for the first time, but it's this little scale button. I can just go from 0 replicas up to 1 replica on both of them.
That's nice.
I know, right? It's a nice thing. And now I should see my Postgres and Reticulum pods coming online. So it'll take a moment to spin up, but PG Bouncer cannot connect to server. Oh, that is my fault. I have jumped ahead here, so avert your eyes. Don't pay attention. I've forgotten to default back to something here. PGS. Or have I? I think I've got it. It might just be taking a moment to spin up here, but sorry, folks. I think I might have forgotten to reset something important here.
I think the issue what is trying to say is that we need to create a subfolder inside the var lib data PostgreSQL data, but maybe
Hmm.
that doesn't make sense.
It shouldn't by default. I think I may have applied something that is not standard here.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Sorry, folks. I did a lot of editing with this HCCE YAML file, and I'm just afraid that I left something in that didn't get properly reset here. Well, I know something that we can do. We can just go ahead and run our bash render hcce.sh file again. That will overwrite this, and then I can just make the adjustments again. So HA proxy, um, just to go through the series again, HA proxy, if you've already deployed, you'll need to comment out the default cert.
Mhm.
Which is,
Go.
yeah, a reason why you would have separate YAML files for some of the plugins.
Exactly. Exactly. And then we need to go to volumes, and I will update this with this one is reticulum ret PVC. Let me just make sure I have everything ret PVC and then PGSQL PVC. Hmm. No, I think I know what the issue is here, actually. Right. Hold on 1 second here. So I think I've actually recognized the issue, which is Rithik, it was not a good idea to do what I did removing this. So the error that we're seeing in PG Bouncer is this kind of like, there's no directory in here. I'm pretty sure, Rithik, that that is because here we specified the host path when we were creating the persistent volumes, right? And that was important, something that was important to specify in there.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that means we have to specify it, right?
Yeah, I think we do have to specify it. So I jumped ahead and tried something a little bit wild there, but so I'm just going to try to. I don't think this should have any issues, but I'm just going to try and remove those pesky mentions of the manual storage class name and change all mentions to read write once, which I think I've done, and then I'm gonna have to reapply this. But it's important to specify the host path name that we had in the YAML file here, just with we'll want to do that at the persistent volume level. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll show you I can scale down my reticulum deployment, scale down my Postgres deployment, then that will make it so that I can actually remove the PVCs. Be aware this does delete any data that you're working with, so it's best to do this kind of in advance. I've deleted both of those, and so now I can reapply uh, my persist files. So kubectl apply -f persist ret YAML. Let me make sure I have this all correct again. I believe that I do. Kubectl apply persist Postgres. Then kubectl apply HCCE YAML, and we'll do the namespace here. So we've reapplied all of that. It's going to take another moment for our two persistent volumes and our PVCs to come up. We'll wait on that. Interesting. Ret PVC did not come up immediately, but Postgres did. Why is that? Hmm. Yeah, that's slightly concerning that one of them came up, but the other didn't. Let's see. Ret PV. Well, maybe it's just taking a moment, so we'll wait to see if that comes up without issue here. Um, yeah, everything looks just fine on the PGSQL PV. It's still pending though. Can folks still hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Cool. Let's see if there are any other issues I can see here. I might try and scale up my deployment here. Oh, I think I do have pods for Postgres and reticulum running. That must be because I ended up when I applied my HCCE YAML file, I believe that changed the replicas. So I'm going to spin these both back down in case that's causing an issue here. But yeah, I'm a little confused why I wouldn't be seeing a ret PV here. Any thoughts, Rithik?
Mm, uh, I think it should
I
be visible after the PVC is provisioned. Sometimes
I
the
just
uh,
discovered why I had not saved my file. So that
oh,
was the issue
oh,
there. So I'm going to reapply. I've just saved and I'm going to reapply there. And I immediately see a ret PV coming online. So sorry about that. What I'm also thinking is I actually don't see a mention of my persistent volume in my PVC here, and I'm thinking that might also be an issue here. Let's see.
mm,
Yeah.
a persistent volume claim can only spin up after the persistent volume is provisioned successfully,
Okay.
which is available right now. But
hmm Do you think I should go ahead and maybe remove these and then reapply?
yeah, best would be to do that because the sequence also matters.
It does. There's an order of operations to it. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Let's see if that works. After reapplying, I don't see any changes to my PVs, but my PVCs are uh, now taking a peek here. Let me also see how to specify PV to a specific PV. Because I knew we had looked at that too.
I don't know if this applies, but I have two persistent volume claims pointed to one persistent volume.
Oh, yeah. Um,
Uh, that's weird.
I don't like I set it up that way.
Could be possible, but
It's working
it
now, but
ideally doesn't work
it's
that
not
way.
probably not scalable. But you know what I mean. I was like learning and trying to figure it out, so that's what I chose, and then just designated specific volume sizes because I noticed you could specify a volume size, but it may give me problems as we're looking at all this, and I have to restructure it.
okay, I'm wondering if I need to update my PV with a claim reference here. Let me update
Yeah.
this.
Do you have your claim name matching with the uh, your claim name should be matching with the persistent volume name
Yeah, I
of the
don't
PV.
currently. So let's add that in here. Realizing.
Oh, this is the persistent volume. So persistent volume claim will have the claim name. Uh,
Yeah. Um,
okay.
I'm seeing in Stack Overflow to add a claim ref to my persistent volume spec um, with a reference to the persistent volume claim to get them to bind immediately.
Yeah, and did you also change your uh, HCC.yml file with that claim name which you have for the persistent volume? Because might be we are missing on that one.
I have the claim name for the. I don't have any reference to the persistent volume, but I have a reference to the persistent volume claim in there.
Yeah, this is right. This is
Okay.
perfectly correct.
Okay. So I'm just trying to add this claim ref to my persistent volume to point to a specific persistent volume claim. Uh,
Mm.
I don't know if that would because right now I'm not seeing my PVCs bind to my PVs. Um, I'm also not seeing my storage
Oh,
class come up correctly. Let's try and add a specific storage class name to my PV for standard read write. So storage class
yeah.
name
Michael, one
read.
more thing I'm interrupting you here, but do you have
No
your
worries.
pod spent for this? Your pod would be the one who would be calling in the persistent volume claim, right?
Gotcha. So I can spin up my Postgres and my Reticulum pods now. But I do want to try and get them to bind correctly. Um, so I think, Rithik, by spinning up my Reticulum and Postgres, I think I am going to see the status change here, but it's just going to kind of be random whether or not they bind to the right volume or not. And so what I'm trying to do quickly is see if I can get my persistent volume to only accept a binding from a specific PVC.
Okay, okay, makes sense.
So I've added this claim ref, which I'm curious to see if that works. And then I've added a storage class name to my PV spec. I'm going to go ahead and spin these back down, delete them, and then reapply. Okay. So let's try these again. Um, Standard RWO. Okay, let's try and apply these again. Okay, and they've instantly bound, and it looks like they've bound correctly. Where PGSQL PVC is bound to PGSQL PV, and then RET PVC is instantly bound to RET PV. I think the issue might have also been the storage class names were not configured correctly. So what I would expect now is if I scale up my Reticulum and Postgres, we should be good to go. Let's see here.
Oh,
Does that make sense what I was doing there, Rithik? I know we had discussed kind of the inability to bind specific PVs to specific PVCs, but I think I just figured out how to do that with this claim ref here.
oh, yeah, that was really perfect with what we did. Yeah, cool. And now I
Yeah,
understand that it's not necessary for the pod to be referencing to the persistent volume claim, but just the persistent volume claim in itself declaration is enough to be bound
Yeah.
to
So,
the. Yeah. Now
so
binding to the
let's
claim,
see.
then yeah.
I think Reticulum might still be being health checked, but let's bring this back online. I think I might need to get rid of my local storage here. Okay. And then it looks like I'm back online just fine here. Let's test if I can get into the admin panel and import some data, delete my pods, and then bring it back online. For the other folks in the room, does it make sense what kind of we accomplished there with the persistent volumes? Um, and I don't know if it was clear, but if we hadn't specified this claim ref, our persistent volume claims would have tried to attach themselves to whatever persistent volume fit their specification. So it's very possible that our RET PVC could have been mapped to our PGSQL PV, and vice versa for our PGSQL PVC could have been mapped to our RET PV. So that's what we were trying to do is there wasn't a huge difference between those two persistent volumes, but for semantics and kind of keeping things clear, we wanted to make sure that the volume and the claim were mapped together and it wasn't just a random uh, happenstance.
Yeah, that's very cool. That claim ref, I just learned something new. That's
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
that's perfect.
So let's just grab a avatar real quick, import it, and then delete and make sure that we can get our stuff back in. Why is this having some trouble? That's interesting. Oh, there it is. It was just taking a little bit longer than I thought. So we're importing our tiger. Let's also grab a scene, I guess. Let's go to our gallery scenes, grab our CodesArt gallery, can import that, set it to default and featured. We have a featured scene. Let's go ahead and make a room from this scene so that we have a room URL to test out too. Nope. Why is dialog having trouble? That's interesting. Ah, JWT error. Why JWT error? Just trying to verify my JWT here. I don't want to get too sidetracked by this just because I want us to focus on this. This shouldn't be necessarily related to our database issue, but it is, of course, an issue. Let me see here if I can. Oh, wrong thing here. Hmm. Okay, it should. Let me let me do this. I should be able to solve this pretty quickly if I do. That's my guide here. By the way, everyone, I updated our guide here with some more helpful information about all of this. At the very bottom, I added a um, persistent volumes and a Docker for render hcce.sh in the March 2024 update. But I'm going to go ahead and use Docker to do this. I think that might be the issue with my JWT is using Docker for the HCCE YAML file. So I'm just going to use Docker for that. Hopefully it will update everything in there. In fact, in a second, I'm actually going to delete hcce.yaml and do it again. Sorry for the getting a little sidetracked here with the JWT issue.
It's all a
No
learning
worries.
process.
Yeah. By the way, Michael, I was just checking on the cbb.sh, which someone in the community pointed out, and I'm also trying to run the cbb.sh file, and it's also uh, just working infinitely long. So might be
Hmm.
after this we can check this out, check that out. What what is causing it to run
Yeah,
forever?
that's a good point. We should definitely check that out. Sorry, folks. It's taken a while to install this OpenSSL line. Well, you know, maybe we can touch on these a little bit further down the road. I don't want to get too sidetracked just because we have a lot to get to, and I think we have debugged these in the past, so I won't take up too much time debugging them again. Basically, the issue I think was between me having used this Docker file to run render hcce.sh in the past, and then I actually just ran render hcce uh, .sh instead of using the Docker file. So I think the difference between doing those two versions is what caused the issue there. So we can come back and fix that hopefully in a little bit. But we should still be able to go finish verifying that our persistent volumes were successful here. So let me get back into the admin panel. I'll keep building this container just in case. Okay, so just before our test, remember we have imported the CodeSart scene and then also this tiger avatar. So after we spin down, or maybe we don't even have to spin down, let's just delete all of our pods to respawn them. Um, After that process completes, we should be able to see uh, those back in the admin panel. Hey, Jua, good to see you.
Hi, Imagine. Hello. Cool.
Looks like everything is coming back online. Okay, let's go back to admin here. Might take a moment to get set back up. Oh, what's happening here? Sign in failed. I think I need to delete my old credentials in here. Let's delete all of that. Awesome. Sign in again. Checking my email. Wonderful. Back in the admin panel. Do I not see any? Okay, I think it's still maybe taking some time to spin back up because I'm getting this server communication error uh, rather than nothing found. I remember running into
Yeah.
this issue a while ago, and it just took a while before. Oh, there they are. Okay. My
Yeah.
featured scene, although I actually see different data. That's very strange. I see a Foxer and a WebXR gallery. Why is that?
Oh yeah, you had a tiger and a Cozart gallery scene.
Yeah, that is very strange. This must be data on here that I have removed but might not actually be deleted. That's strange.
Hmm. Is your HCC dot YML file updated with the PVC claim name, persistent volume claim name? Like just checking on.
It certainly should be. Let's check the deployment I have on Reticulum. Uh, yeah, I should see ret PVC here. One thing I can check is I can go to Google Cloud, go to Kubernetes engine, go to storage, and then check my. Yep, I can see that in here. I'm sorting by cluster, and I do see two persistent volumes here. What is the issue?
Hmm.
That is entirely unexpected that it would come back with that. Let me make sure
Uh,
that PG. Yeah, it's going to Postgres. Huh. That's very strange. I might try to remove my deployment and then reapply in a moment. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to delete my entire deployment. Deleted. And I've also built my Docker file here. So there we go. No pods up. I'm going to run the command to build HCCE. So pwd should be this. Okay. So I should have reconfigured my HCCE YAML file, but I didn't see any change in here. Let me go ahead and delete my HCCE YAML file and then my keys as well, just in case. and move those to trash. Okay, I'm gonna run them again. I should get a new YAML file. Okay, perfect. Let's go with this. So just a reminder before we deploy, I want to comment out my HA proxy default cert, since I've already got mine applied. I will want to search for volumes and then change these to my persistent volume claims. Okay, let's reapply this YAML file. Cube ctl apply -f. Okay, my deployment is coming back up. I see pods coming back online. If I look at my PVCs here, what's wrong with reticulum here? Nothing, it's just taking a moment. Let's see if that fixed things. I'm wondering if that was more of a reset since I've deleted so many persistent volumes and persistent volume claims. I'm wondering if I needed to do a little bit more of a reset, factory reset to fix things. Let's see.
And this is an interesting note that although we delete the persistent volume from our cluster, but it
It
doesn't
looks like
actually
some of the
get
data
deleted.
is it looks like some of the data is still being cached on here, and I'm still seeing this uh, WebXR main haul and then Foxer under the avatars. Um,
Mm,
let's try one more thing. I'm going to go to the source. I'm wondering if this is at all to do with it being uh, me controlling this uh, in Lens. So I've opened up uh, Google Cloud. I'm going to delete my storage here. I filtered by my instance name here. Should also do HCC. Yeah. So this is my cluster. I'm going to go ahead and delete these PVCs just to make sure. Oh, sorry, I accidentally clicked storage classes here. So I'm going to delete these two resources. I have to come back. Hmm. Perhaps they are bound, and that is why they're having trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and move reticulum, scale it down, scale down PGSQL. Hopefully this will make it so that it is not bound anymore. Okay, I see them being deleted now that
oh, yeah.
they're going away. Okay. Great. Okay. So I've
Okay.
tried deleting them from the source. I'm hoping that that clears it up completely from here. Um, so I'm going to, just do what I've done before. I'm going to reapply my two persist files and see if that creating new files will help here. So kubectl apply dash f persist dot ret. Okay. See their status as released. I guess I'll also, well, we'll give it a moment here. Oh, I see them pending, so they're coming up right now. Sorry also if I'm missing anything in the chat. Who's still here with us? We got Imaginer, Jua, Yvonne, and Redtech. Thank y'all for hanging in.
Of course.
You get it, Michael. Yeah, Michael.
Okay, those are still pending. I'm gonna scale up my Reticulum and Postgres deployments. See if that changes things in here. Okay, now they are bound. Oh, interesting though. Huh. I see two different PVCs that have been created, and I'm curious and a bit worried that they might be incorrect. Let's see here. Yeah, same kind of issue here where um, it didn't like the persistent volumes that I had given it. Alrighty. I'm trying to think of some other fast solutions before we go ahead and hop over to. Uh, I want to make sure that we have time to go over external database stuff, but I'm frustrated that we haven't gotten a definitive solution on the persistent volumes here. Um, what do y'all think? I think we should probably skip on, and then I can do a little bit more researching and verifying on this. But I'm just frustrated that we keep having these issues with persistent volumes.
Yeah, I definitely agree because like we already have a working version of with this. The problem here is might be in a very rare scenario. What is happening right now is the data is getting cached and the persistent volume is not getting deleted at all.
Hmm.
So let's go ahead with the managed database part.
Could
Great.
it have something to do with the Docker file and HTTP YAML?
I don't think so. Um, sorry, one moment. Okay. Sorry, folks. I just wanted to make sure we scaled down Reticulum and Postgres again. Um, I don't think the Docker file would have had a negative effect here, but I think it's something in how we're specifying our persistent volume that it's not too happy, or maybe the order of operations here. What we could do once more is delete these two now that they're not bound. And then we could separate out, because I think some of it might have to do with the order of operations here. So we no longer have our persistent, I'm going to delete our PVs here too. I kind of want to break these out into two separate files. So I'm going to do a PV and then a PVC for each of these. And what I think I want to do is I want to try and create the persistent volume first, and then try and create the PVC. So let's try that. I'm going to get rid of each of these. Let's try stepping through this a little bit slower. I'm going to apply my persist pgsql pv file first. Here I can see pgsql pv is created, it's available. Let's verify in here. I don't think I can actually see my persistent volume. I can only see my claim in here, which is okay. Now let's apply the persist ret PV. Okay, that's created. It's available. Now let's apply our PVCs here. So pgsql PVC I've applied. If I refresh, I should see it here. It's bound to pgsql PV. I now have a link to that, which is good. Under storage, I can see my persistent volume details. That looks like it's properly attached rather than to an automatically generated one. Now let's do it for the ret PVC. Ret PVC, I refresh in here, I should see it's attached to ret PV. That looks more promising to me. It looks like everything is a little bit better lined up. I'm going to go back to my deployment, and I'm going to scale them up. Postgres, and then Reticulum. Let's see what happens. This is a big, big mystery. Okay. No errors yet. No anger from my PGSQL pod that it's not. PGSQL is already up and running. Reticulum is still just kind of going through its initial getting started health checks. I'm going to delete my local storage here. And what I'm expecting after I get back in is I'm expecting that there should be no data. Otherwise, we would have to clear the cache or something. But yeah, we'll see. So my hope here is that just by kind of stepping through each individual step, we have fixed things. Why is it having trouble verifying my email? That's strange. Can y'all still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think
Verified.
I think he just took a beat.
strange. I'll try it once more. Imagine having SMTP issues. Now that would be just very funny,
Yeah.
very unfortunate. But I don't think we are. I'm getting emails just fine, and finally I'm in. Okay. So let's go to import content. I still see this cache data. Okay, let's work from here. Oh, what is this? Some older data here. Let's work from here and add a default scene. Let's forget about the previous ones. Let's go ahead and add the CodesArt gallery in here as our default scene. Great. If I go to featured scenes, I should see CodesArt in here. And now, moment of truth, we will test again. I'm going to scale down my Reticulum and Postgres deployments and hope that it works. If I refresh now, I get service unavailable. That's good. If I bring them back online, my hope is that we don't have any issues and we can move on and in 30 minutes speed run external managed databases, which will be a big ask. Okay, no issues coming back up. It's just going to take a minute. I'm going to try and delete my local storage quickly. Delete my session storage. Reticulum's still coming back online. I'm also willing, if other folks are, to stay on a little bit longer to make sure we get through managed database stuff, since it is such a big thing to get set up. To sign back in. Fingers crossed. Featured scenes. CodesArt gallery. Thank goodness. Before we run into other issues, I'm going to consider that somewhat stable. Somewhat safe. Although it might be wishful thinking. Anyway, okay. So in our long journey to set up persistent volumes, we're now going to basically forget about them. We're going to completely remove the need for them by setting up two types of managed storage, one for Reticulum and one for Postgres. We'll start with Reticulum. Let me bring this up here. So we're going to be using the Hubs, not the Hubs Cloud, the Google Cloud interface to set these up. First, we need a file store instance, and then we need a Postgres Cloud SQL instance. So first, I'll start with file store, and I'm going to do some of this off screen just in case. So y'all don't see anything. So I've gone to file store and I'm going to, y'all can't see this of course, but I'm going to click create instance in file store to create a new instance. And y'all can see this now. So let's update this here. HCCE Mike Moran FS April 24. Big descriptive long name. We can see a monthly estimate by default is about $460 a month. This is where we are getting into the realm of needing to spend some more resources for managed storage. So it's a downside, but it comes with the territory here. Okay. I'm going to try and look for the lowest one. I think if I go to basic, let's see here. Yeah, I think I want to go to basic HDD, only 1 TB of capacity. I think there is a little bit more you can do to optimize this, but as you can see here, still 160 per month, not exactly cheap, but I think this resource is more expensive than some others. Big thing here, VPC, you'll want to select the same one as where your instance is. Mine's on default, but this is kind of the most important thing to set up here. And then for my file share name, I can just do fs underscore HCCE Mike Moran. Oh, it's going to give me a character limit, April 24. Okay, no labels grant access to all clients on the VPC network. For something more secure, you can restrict by an IP address range. But since I'm just using kind of the same resource on the VPC, there are many ways to make this a little bit more secure. But I'll go ahead and create this. It's time to spin up. So I'm also going to go ahead and create my Cloud SQL instance too, so we can do both at the same time. Remember, for the Cloud SQL, that's for the Postgres. It's going to end up actually replacing the need for a Postgres pod. Right now, we have an entire Kubernetes pod running of a Postgres instance, but we're actually going to point PG Bouncer to our external database, and we'll be able to get rid of our Postgres SQL pod altogether. Let me also go ahead, before I forget, spin down my deployment of Reticulum and PGSQL. So I'm going to scale both those down. Does that make sense? For hubs, PG Bouncer sits between Reticulum and our Postgres instance, whether that is a pod running in our cluster or an external database. PG Bouncer, think of it as an actual bouncer at a club. Basically, Reticulum is pretty agnostic about how many connections it lets through. It's not necessarily the best at load balancing. So depending on how many people you have connected, your database instance can easily be overwhelmed if there isn't something sitting between it and Reticulum. And that's where PG Bouncer comes in. It sits between Reticulum and our Postgres in our database. So we just need to set up an external database and tell PG Bouncer to point to it instead of a pod running on our instance. So in Google Cloud, I think I can go to Cloud Storage, not Cloud Storage, sorry. Cloud SQL is what I'm looking for. Oh, it's just SQL on here. So I brought up SQL. I'm going to click Create Instance again. Here's the interface for creating a new instance. I'm going to select PostgreSQL. Instance ID, let's say DB HCC Mike Moran, April 24. Password, very important. I will delete this instance, so I'm going to use a generated password like this. I can give it the URL for the CodeZart gallery as my password if I want to. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just using a generated password. You will need to copy that and make sure and I'm going to actually copy that just on a notepad here on the side. Okay, big thing here, database version. We're going to be using Postgres 12. I should note that Postgres 12 is going away relatively soon. I don't know when exactly Google Cloud is getting rid of it, but it will be soon. And the reason why we're using it is just for kind of ease of use right now. With it's in terms of the kind of encryption it uses for passwords. At least that's the issue that we've seen with it. So let me see. I have some resources to share here about it. So if y'all want to look into this a little bit deeper, especially if you want to move to not use Postgres 12. Oh, I've frozen. Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to come back.
Yep.
1 second. Sorry, folks. I froze. I hope I didn't freeze you.
We're here, moving.
Moving around. All good. Can you see my screen share?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So if folks want to look into it a little bit more, here's kind of some resources we found on it. Basically, Postgres 12 defaults to MD5 encryption. But Postgres, I think 14 and 15, which are versions that you would probably want to move to, they use a different encryption. Basically, you just need to figure out your password encryption, uh, the differences between the two versions. Because MD5 is what Community Edition uses by default, we're going to stick with Postgres 12 today, where the default is MD5. But for higher levels of encryption, I think it's there's some other version that we haven't had the chance to convert over to yet. So that's why we're choosing version 12. But important there. I'm going to select the cheapest version. I'll go to development. I won't choose sandbox. Make sure it's kind of in the same region. And then I do need to configure some additional options here. Let me pull up my notepad because this is where I often forget the right things to specify. Okay, connections. Public IP and private IP need to be enabled. Here, this will allow you to choose the same VPC as that you need to use. And lastly, this enable private path is important to enable too. So I always forget those. I should also say, I think you can set a custom flag to change the encryption type of your database. I wasn't able to do it successfully, but I think you can look on this document if you're trying to use Postgres 15 or 14. I think you can use the flag section to specify a specific value there. I don't know why it's coming. So MD5, if I look it up here. Oop. Yeah, so here, if you set the password encryption flag, you can either set to MD5 or Scram SHA-256. I think that is the, oh yeah, so here we go. For Postgres 14 and higher, the Scram SHA-256 is the default version. So I think you can change the default, I believe. But like I said, I haven't had a chance to verify that. You'll have to look a little bit deeper into there. Great. And with that, I'm going to also disable deletion protection. That's because I'm deleting this instance immediately after this meeting. Don't disable this if you are setting it up for yourself and want to keep your instance. I'm just doing that for me to be able to delete it easily later. Okay. Instance is being created. Fantastic. That's just going to take a moment there. I'm also going to, off screen, I'm going to pull up my file store to see if that is up and running yet. Okay. So I have my file store and my my Cloud SQL instance being created. It looks like my file store is good to go. I'm looking here. Yeah, I don't see anything else about it being created. So we can go ahead and get started pointing Reticulum to this file store instance. So To do this, I'm going to go back to my HCCE YAML file. Let me consult my notes here. But I'm going to look down to volumes. Oops, don't change that. Volumes. Great, I'm in Reticulum, and just like we were pointing it to a persistent volume claim, here we're going to be pointing it to our file store instance. Let me make sure I have this correct. So name, we'll want to keep it the same as storage, since for our volume mount, we still have that in there. But here, instead of that, we're going to be pointing towards NFS. So a different storage type here, NFS. And then we have to specify a path. For this, it can be somewhat, actually, can it be arbitrary? No, it cannot. For the path, you'll want to select the same mount point here. So for me, that's FS HCCE MM April 24th. Gosh, is it really April 24th? This month has flown by. Great. So we'll want to specify our path like that. And then server. Here we have the first half of our mount point. We'll do our IP. And since we're in the same VPC, it should kind of work very plug and play. Shouldn't have too many issues here. So that's what we specify, NFS, our path, and our server for Reticulum. Any questions so far?
It's cool.
Yeah, hopefully it works. Okay, let's see. I'm going to refresh my Cloud SQL instance. Okay, I already have a private IP address. That's great. So it looks like my Cloud SQL instance has also come up. So now we can work on pointing our PG bouncer to this instance instead of to Postgres. So I'm actually going to search for PG bouncer in here. Then I believe, let me verify my notes here. Oh wait, a couple things before we do this. Yep, one important thing. Let me see if I can illustrate it actually. Okay, so what is this in? This is in photognomonic. Okay, so here, this is kind of the same stuff we specified in our HCCE, render HCCE file, but here we can see retdb. So this is a connection URL. Postgres : / is the protocol. Postgres is the user, : our password. And here it's saying to point to, it's telling Reticulum to point to PG bouncer. PG bouncer will then take this and relay it over to, what's it called? PG bouncer will then relay it up to our whatever our instance of Postgres is. And it's telling to connect at the retdb database. By default, in databases on our Cloud SQL instance, we do not have, oh, and I see it's actually, it looks like it's still being updated. One sec. Creating backup. Why is it creating a backup? Okay. So there's a pending operation, but we can see, oh, it's done. Okay. We can see by default, it creates the Postgres database. We need to make sure that there is a retdb database in there. We can do that just by doing retdb. We can manually use the Google Cloud interface to create that. So it's very important to create this beforehand to make sure that when we try and connect from PG Bouncer to our external database, that there is this retdb database to connect to. Cool. Let me also check my notes here. Okay, here we can begin changing some other things here. Postgres. Okay. So let's see this. Okay. So three things to update in here. Remember when we created our Cloud SQL instance, we created a custom password? Well, we need to put that in here. So I'm going to go ahead, put that in all three mentions here. So obviously DB pass, we need to put it in there. In the Postgres DB URI, you'll remember it starts with the protocol, then it has the user, and then the password. We'll need to update this as well. Finally, in PSQL, we have another database URI. We have protocol, we have our username, and then we have password. I'm going to change that there. So that should be all of the mentions of our password. And I think the last thing is we need to just change our PG bouncer. Sorry. We'll need to change PG bouncer and PG bouncer T's DB host. So like I said, PG bouncer and PG bouncer T both sit between Reticulum and our instance of our database. Also, can folks still hear me? I want to make sure I'm not losing anybody. Still there?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. So PG bouncer sits between Reticulum and our database instance. So we need to change our, basically, what it's pointing to. Instead of pointing to this pod, we need to have it point to our new instance here. Going to go back and grab our private IP address. Since we've enabled this all kind of on the same VPC, it's, like I said, pretty plug and play. We should be able to just grab our private IP address and specify that wherever we see DB host in PG bouncer and PG bouncer T. So I'm going to update that value for DB host in both of those. Where's my second? Here we go. So by default, it's PGSQL because it by default points to a Postgres pod. Great, but I'm going to point it to this IP address instead. Cool. I'm going to kubectl apply this file now, and we'll be able to test. kubectl apply -f hcce.yaml, and then my namespace, hcce Mike Moran. Moment of truth. Once I do this, I think it's going to try and spawn a PGSQL pod. Honestly, this is kind of pointless. We're about to get rid of it. So once this comes online, I'm actually going to scale down my PGSQL pod to nothing. Then I shouldn't see anything, but I'm going to take a peek at PG Bouncer as it's doing this. Okay. And new connection to server, we can see this private IP address that we've specified. It's the same as this one here, which is really good. It means we're doing what we want. It's doing what we want it to. Let's look at Reticulum now. We should be seeing like some database migration stuff in here. Yeah, we see a lot of like migration in here. That should be it connecting to the file system. Let's see if I can, I don't know if I can see anything related to that, but like I said, this needs to go through and run the connection to the file store instance. And it's a big migration process, but finally it's got it going. And with that, I think we should be good to go. Let me say it again. I think we should be good to go. It's not working yet. Let's see. I don't know why it's taking longer. Okay, it's connecting now. So, it was so anticlimactic. I was like, man, we're getting through this so quickly. and then it just didn't work. So disappointing. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so our instance is back up, looking good. I'm gonna sign in and try and write some data.
You can fix it in post.
I cannot. I don't want to spend the time to go back. I've already, I need, uh, after these sessions, I always need to go back and kind of like delete the resources that I've created, edit
Right.
out anything that's like important to edit out. Like I know I showed a portion of this screen that I wasn't supposed to earlier that I need to edit out. So, um, it'll take just a moment. Okay, my emails finally come through. Verification complete. If I go to the admin panel, I had better not see any mention of Foxer anywhere. Good. I don't see them. So there's no Foxer who's come through, but we can add Foxer. So let's find some scenes and avatars here. Uh, where would Foxer be?
Cool.
Does anyone have a URL for Foxer? Someone get it for me. In the meantime, I'll import the Codes Art Gallery. Hmm. Uh-oh. I'm having some trouble writing data for some reason. That's strange. Postgres data provider. Syntax error. Why is there a syntax error? Let's try Foxer real quick. Thank you, Imaginer, for that.
Oh, cool. You're welcome,
Oh,
Michael.
please work. Please work. Why isn't it working? Oh, let's look at it. Okay. Let's look a little bit deeper. So I'm going to first check out my reticulum logs. API Postgres avatars. Not too much happening there. Let's go to PG Bouncer, the next step in the chain. I don't see any issues there either. Huh, this is a strange one. I honestly have not seen this. Error, HTTP error. I'm getting this server communication error, which is strange. And it's whenever it's calling the API.
Yeah, and that too specifically Postgres API.
Mm-hmm. Let me try seeing if it's everywhere. Like if I, okay, pause on breakpoint. Why do I have a breakpoint here? Okay,
So
I
it's
don't know
like
why I had.
you
Sorry, what's that,
uh,
Ritik?
you paused it on invalid token. So maybe you have to clear your data again and sign it
Mm-hmm.
so that the tokens are valid.
Let's try that once more. Okay, I'm going to try and sign in once again. I'm trying to determine it. It really doesn't seem like a issue I'm familiar with on the database side, but it would make sense that we would encounter something like this. Man, I really thought we were gonna make it through without any issues at all the way to the end of our speed run of external databases, but interesting. Error verifying email. Something fishy is happening. Let's see what Reticulum said about that. Very strange. Something has happened where
Uh,
it doesn't like my email address.
yeah, sometimes doing a shift plus reload fixes this error verifying email problem.
What's it called? A shift plus reload?
Yeah, or basically like clearing all the site data.
Okay. Well, there goes the verification.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm back in the admin panel. I'm still getting this server communication error and this Postgres data provider error.
Oh, this time it's not Postgres data issue.
Do you know the issue I'm
Uh,
encountering?
no, I mean this time you're just getting it inside the provider issue, but the API issue is not there.
Oh, okay.
The
Well,
Postgres.
let's
Uh,
let's try getting another avatar. I think I'm still gonna get the error. It still seems like it's yeah, something is
oh
happening
yeah,
here.
still there. HTTP error 502 is a bad gateway.
Let me ping support.
Do we have do we have inbound do we have added all IP addresses to access to this Postgres DB? Uh, by default should be allowed to every IP address.
Yeah, so by default we shouldn't have an issue, and maybe that's a good point to look at it here, to kind of look at the traffic here, if we can see any insights. Um, because yeah, by default, I'll allow unencrypted network traffic. That looks good. Networking, yeah, everything within this VPC should be good to go. Um, I'm gonna message support real quick just to see.
Okay, cool.
I've just messaged support to see if we can get any quick solves, but otherwise I'm just gonna kind of be looking on Google to see what we can find about this. Unexpected. Huh. Syntax error. I really haven't seen this before. Hmm. And looking through, I don't see anything strange in my logs at all. In fact, for kind of the API Postgres seen listings and featured after. Let me check my notes to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything important here. Huh. I wonder, I think I might have made a mistake. No, that wouldn't have been a mistake. Hmm. I know it's after hours for Gung, who has been helping me with this week. So I'm concerned that he might not be able to help us out here in the next couple of minutes. But let's see if I can't find something else.
By the way, I've also spinned up a Postgres instance on Postgres 12, so we can try that out if it's with the Postgres itself. Like if we want to try with a different database cluster.
I wonder what unless you've kind of enabled public IP, I wonder if it's gonna let us connect to it since it won't be on the same VPC. Are you talking about like me trying to use your IP address?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, I mean like the database. I have the URL and all the other data. So using this, we can use it. And in the trusted sources, I can add all the IPs 0.0.0.0.
Sure. I've just spun down and spun back up my. I'm pretty sure it won't fix things, but let's see if just doing that does change anything here. Just kind of seeing if our deployment needed to be spun down and spun back up. It's always helpful to kind of unplug and replug the server to see what happens.
Yeah, cool.
Still getting the server communication error, which is no good. And then if I try to import, I think I'm still going to get some errors here. Here I'm actually not even getting anything loading in here. Why is that? Oh, sorry. Now I'm getting a strange CORS error. Let me double check that my IP is the same here. Sometimes if you go through a certain number of these changes, you might end up with a different IP address. 34, 147, 174, 34, 174.
Michael, just quick question. Did you change your DB host to something else? Like it is PG Bouncer by default, and DB host underscore T is PG Bouncer dash T. So uh, we can check if that is still in place.
So what I tried to change here, Rithik, is these mentions of PGSQL. I wanted to, let's look here. The values for something like DB host, I wanted to change, they were PGSQL. I wanted to change them to the IP address for both PG Bouncer and PG Bouncer T. But I believe any time that this value for DB host is used for PG Bouncer, I believe that's by design that PG Bouncer is it's usually when Reticulum is trying to connect to PG Bouncer.
Okay, cool.
Trying to see if there's anything else I should check on this. Any questions from folks as we're, I think, coming to the end of our time for the day, but definitely not the end of this topic, I think. Do we still
So
have
what do
folks
you
here?
think generally, what do you think generally is happening? It's just not able to, is it an issue with Postgres or an issue with just connecting with the database or a transition issue?
I'm honestly a little bit perplexed. I don't know exactly what the issue is here that we're running into. I haven't seen it yet. The issue now is a little bit stranger that we're getting these cores issues to even load this. Um, but before we were, I wonder if any of it has. I don't think it would have anything to do with certificate side stuff. Let me
I
also
don't know if this, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know that it's related, but I have found that sometimes when I've made changes, I've had to update like certbot for, I don't know, like
Mhm.
periodically, not all the time, but it's almost like it'll, this is non-technical, it'll like give out or something, or just like not,
Sure.
I don't know. It's just the thing that I've noticed. I don't know what's causing it necessarily. It doesn't happen all the time, but maybe. I don't know if that's all.
hmm Let's see here. Let me also make sure. Yeah, I got rid of that. Hmm. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm a little bit stumped as to why we're having this issue. Um, but I'm thinking it's something I'm gonna have to follow up on for next time, just because I don't know really where to go for clarity on this. Let's see.
By the way, Michael, the CVB SH issue which I was telling you is I tried to check it right now. With the new certificates, it's giving some kind of weird issue, but the old certificates, it's working correctly.
Okay.
Like,
So
y-
you're trying to it's having some issues when you're trying to reissue certificates.
no, where I'm reissuing the certificate, it works good. But if I am doing it with a new domain, uh, an entire new deployment, it shows some issue right now.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
issue I can read out a bit. It says that an unexpected error occurred. There were too many requests of a given type. Error creating new order. Too many field authorizations recently. See
Hmm.
https let's encrypt.org docs failed validation limit.
Hmm.
Okay, maybe I have just crossed the validation uh, limit link. This is the link which they have.
Also, FYI, I'm
Like,
looking through my configs secrets, and I see that my PSQL config is has the wrong password, and I'm wondering if that is the issue here. So I might just as sorry to interrupt, Rithik, but I feel
Ooh,
like I've
that sounds promising.
stumbled upon
yeah,
something here.
per-
So I've saved and
confirm that.
updated that. I should see. I might have to spin down my reticulum and post PG Bouncer deployments. I'll also do PG Bouncer T. Spin them all down. As I was helping that user earlier today, Rithik, who was asking about the certbot bot question, I found myself just being like, send as much of the pod logs as you can. Send everything.
Oh, right, that's true. Key to debugging is observing.
Hmm. Okay. Connection refused to PG Bouncer T, but it looks like it's coming back up. Okay. This would be fantastic if this is the only issue, but I'm confused why I thought I had updated it in my PSQL in HCCE YAML, but for some reason I don't think it got applied. Um, anyway, Reticulum is back. Let's give it a shot. Sign out, sign back in. Server communication error. Interesting. Sometimes that can be just on the first, before there's any data in there. So I'm going to try and go ahead with this anyway. Okay, that loaded in much quicker. And is it going to... no, I'm still getting this error. What is that? All right, so I'm still getting an issue here. I'm honestly going to actually try this in a incognito window, just to see if it is at all related to my cache. Yeah, I'm still getting a weird error here. One other thing we can do, just kind of as a, pull the plug tactic, is we can try and restart our database instance. Yeah, I'm gonna give that a shot to see if it does anything. So I'm restarting that database. Oops, sorry. I'm restarting that database instance. See if that does anything. Let me also look through my PG Bouncer and PG Bouncer T logs to make sure I'm no issues there. My database has been restarted. I'm going to kill my PG Bouncer, PG Bouncer T, and Reticulum pods all together and let them respawn and see what happens. I'm also going to check my secrets to make sure that I'm still good on this PSQL value. Yep, all of that looks good. Better, I should say, than before. Hmm. For some reason, Reticulum is very unhappy with me now. Scale it down. Scale it back
Yeah,
up.
actually, I would pause that reticulum, trying to follow along with you.
Okay, I'm seeing better results after scaling down my deployment and scaling it back up. Um, Yeah, it's still getting the server communication error. That is very strange. And it's even stranger that I'm not seeing any sort of logs on here.
Nothing much is wrong. It just doesn't work.
Right.
Oh, I see Gung writing something in the chat for me, so we'll see if that.
Michael, just one more thing. Uh, just above the dialog pod definition, we also have the string data for PSQL. So have we also changed the password there?
Sorry, one second.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rithik, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, in the dialog pod definition in our YML file, we have the PSQL string data, which also refers to the database credentials. So have we updated that?
About what line is that?
Uh, for me, it's 1114. For you, it should be around like 700, 800 something. Uh, dialog, yeah, above this. Uh, wherever, wait, let me take the exact. It is a photomenomic uh, service.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
I think
sorry, y'all. I
I
have
don't
figured
use
out the
that.
issue. So let's looking at my ret logs for container here, you can see that there are two containers. There's this sidecar running as well that I should have been searching by. That's for the API for Postgres. And here we can see we're getting an invalid message on our password here.
Mhm.
Let me. Gung is helping me in the background as I'm looking for it.
Cool.
So if y'all see in here, I'm pretty sure there is an issue with how I've specified my password here. Yeah, and Gung just confirmed it for me. Basically, this DBURI is having trouble processing this password.
Oh, yeah, because it's a question mark and a comma, maybe.
I'm asking Gung what the best thing is here. If I need to just change my password to something that does not use like a percent sign, a bracket, a question mark, and a comma, or if there's some way to kind of specify that this is meant to be a string. Anyone familiar with how to specify uh, those kinds of things?
Do you HTML encode it? Like do the oh, the percent and then the thingy character codes? Sorry. I,
Yeah. I wish I could like backtick mark it like that or something. This would be a
yeah, that'd be
perfect question for a locally run version of ChatGPT if anyone. Uh, and of course, I'm endorsing a locally run version. I actually don't have one running on this computer right now. Uh, but let's see. I think Gung is about to save my skin here. Let's see. Okay. He has said that, yeah, the brackets, the question mark, yeah, it needs to be base 64 encoded. So he shared this with me. Oh,
That's great.
so
Yay.
this should be what it is.
Oh yeah, see it's adding in the percent
Yeah,
25s and 2Cs and things like I was trying to suggest.
yes.
And
Um,
miserably describing.
no worries. So I've updated it there. I'm going to reapply. Okay. The thing that I learned today by doing this was that you could filter your pod logs by container so that we can actually see this all important Postgres sidecar, which is where it had been yelling at us that we're having this error in here. So you
That's
learn something every
awesome.
day.
Errors are the best.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Okay. If y'all are still willing to hang in here with me, I'm gonna kubectl apply -f hcce.yaml -n hcce Mike Moran. Imagine if we do this and it doesn't work. How annoying will that be? But we'll see. Okay.
How normal would that be?
How normal?
There's
Yes.
another error underneath. Come on,
Where's
there's
the error?
almost always another error underneath.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna verify. It looks like my Postgres URL reset, which is fine. I can go ahead and save that. Let me check my DB URI. I'm going to save that. Deployments, I'm going to scale down my reticulum pod. That should be the only thing we have to change. I'll scale it back up. And we shall see. Password authentication failed. Beautiful. Oh no.
Come
Why?
on, Postgres.
Why? Okay. Protocol violation. It's not liking that. I think the issue is that it's okay to specify it in here in the DB pass, but it is not okay to specify it in the URL. So I'm going to, yes, I'm going to go ahead, specify this, reapply, go back in. For some reason, I don't know why PSQL is defaulting all the time to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I will post the updated URI in there. And hopefully it works. Okay.
Okay.
Scale
Good luck.
down reticulum. Get out of here. Then scale up reticulum. Please work. Okay, new reticulum pod. No errors yet. I don't see a password error. Come
That's
on.
good.
Come on.
Wait, hang on. Why was it marked green before when I was encountering a password error?
What do you mean?
That second pod on the reticulum, or not pod, container on the reticulum. Right now it's
Oh,
marked
I think that
orange,
just
and it's
has
starting out.
I think that just has to do with kind of the life cycle of the pod rather than the actual functions within it. So
Okay.
those don't actually have anything to do with the necessarily the errors inside. But green and green are good. Let's go back and see.
Yep.
Okay.
Fingers
Signing
crossed,
out.
Michael.
Big day for Community Edition if we get it working.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
And anyone who's watching the recording, I'm so sorry for how much you're gonna have to sift through just kind of the mundane debugging here, but it'll be worth it, hopefully. Okay, admin panel, no server error.
Yay!
Pending.
Wow.
Wait, why is there a scene in here? And a Foxer.
Oh,
What? Okay. I'll take it. It's broken me. It's taunting me. Import, please work. Yes.
Can you import two of the same
Hooray. It's working.
thing? Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna do a scene now. I can't believe it's in here. Okay. Import. Please work. Okay. I go to featured avatars. I should see one Foxer. If I go to featured scenes, I should see one CodesArt gallery. I don't know where the other Foxer came from, and in fact, I can't even see it anymore. Let me create a room. I think we're almost to our acceptance criteria here. All we'll need to do is spin down our reticulum pod and maybe our PG bouncer pod as well. Okay, we have a hub ID here. So let's go to our deployments. Let's spin down our reticulum pod. Anything there, Imagineer? What's up?
Well, theoretically, you should be able to destroy, like, your whole Community Edition instance and rebuild it from scratch, as long as you put in the right database and
Yeah,
password. Yes?
yeah. Which is effective. I mean, it's effectively the same as spinning down and spinning back up.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Spun down reticulum. Okay, one thing I did notice is that after the last deployment, I did notice there was a PGSQL pod up. It shouldn't have mattered, but I wonder if somehow it was doing some spooky stuff of getting that Foxer on there or something. I don't know how it would if PG Bouncer is not pointed to that PGSQL pod, but I won't put anything past it. Anyway,
Right.
getting 503 still. That's good.
Yeah. So, does that mean you can have multiple instances pointed at the same database?
Yes.
Yeah, how cool is that?
And when I refresh, let's see. When I refresh and enter, I should be able to enter a CodesArt gallery as a Foxer avatar. Be able to go about the rest of my day. Let's see. And Rithik can go to sleep.
Yes.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Aw.
Come on, Foxer.
Oh dear. Please, please. Come on.
So Foxer
It's moving
almost
slow.
showed,
But it is moving.
Change avatar. There's a Foxer in there. Good enough. Here we go. Foxer avatar, CodesArt scene. Done.
Take the picture.
Let's get some celebration.
Yay.
I'm not seeing anything up here anymore, but we did it, folks. We did it. Oh
Yay.
boy. What a day. Thank y'all for hanging in there. How silly. Yeah, thank y'all for hanging in there. We covered a lot of territory there, and I'm glad we did.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll be
Woo.
rewatching this and going through step by step.
Yvonne, if you're walking through it again, it would be a great delight if you're able to like grab some timestamps of when we actually get past, when we actually get answers. I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not gonna have time to go back and do that, but I think everyone would appreciate if we're able to do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah,
for
that's
them.
no problem. I probably we have like an event on Sunday, so I'll probably implement it later. But yeah, if I can go through it before then, I'll definitely whenever I do, like I'll make note of the timestamps for sure.
For sure. Awesome. Okay. Let me stop the recording. Thank you, everyone who was watching that, and yeah, join us next week. You're not or tune in for the next session where we'll go over some more database stuff.